The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, thick, cream-colored cardstock embossed in gold, announcing the Morrison family's annual reunion. I ran my fingers across the raised lettering, the memories it summoned flickering through my mind like scenes from an old, unwelcome movie. My name is Olivia Morrison, though in the professional world, I go by Liv Carter. A decade ago, I was the family embarrassment, the black sheep who walked away from our prestigious banking dynasty to chase what they considered a naive fantasy, a career in hospitality. The phone rang, breaking my reverie. My cousin Diana's name lit up the screen. I didn't need to answer to know why she was calling. Olivia, she purred, saccharine as ever. I assume you got the invitation? I did. Well, darling, I just wanted to suggest, gently, of course, that perhaps you sit this one out. The Starlight Grand is very exclusive, the dress code alone. I stared out the floor-to-ceiling window of my Manhattan office, hiding a smirk. The Starlight Grand, my crown jewel. The Morrison family had no idea LC Hotels, the country's fastest-growing luxury hotel chain, was owned by the so-called family failure. Are you implying I can't afford it, Diana? Oh, don't be ridiculous, she said lightly. It's just, well, we have some very high-profile guests attending, the governor, several top CEOs. We wouldn't want anyone to feel, out of place. She meant herself. Heaven forbid her elite circle discover her cousin had once worked a hotel front desk. The horror. I see, I replied, keeping my tone even. And who chose the venue? I did, she said, clearly pleased with herself. Daddy says I have an eye for these things. The Starlight Grand is the most prestigious hotel in Manhattan. I had to call in a few favors to get us in. I nearly laughed. Diana's request had come through our standard online booking portal. I'd approved it personally, and raised the rate by 30%, just for fun. That must have taken some serious connections, I said mildly. Not everyone has my network, she bragged. Elsie Carter is so private, but once the staff heard we were Morrisons, they were very cooperative. Of course they were, I made sure of it. How fascinating, I said. Anyway, Diana continued, maybe next year, if things improve on your end. Are you still at that little place in Brooklyn? That little place was the first property I'd launched, my proving ground, where I tested the innovations that would redefine luxury hospitality, but the Morrisons had long since tuned out anything I did. Something like that, I said. After we hung up, I leaned back in my leather chair, the skyline glinting behind me. I could still hear my father's voice from 10 years ago, livid. A hotel clerk? Absolutely not. No daughter of mine wears a name tag. But I had stuck to my vision. I worked every job, housekeeping, bellhop, concierge, learning the business from the inside out. By 25, I opened my first hotel under the LC brand. By 32, I owned 17 properties on 3 continents. The Starlight Grand, the very one hosting our reunion, was the flagship, lauded for marrying timeless luxury with futuristic tech. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus, my assistant. The Morrison reunion contract just needs your final signature. Want me to bring it up? I smiled and typed back, no need, I've got plans for this one. I opened my laptop and got to work. If the family thought I was too poor to attend, they were about to get a front row seat to the truth. As I made the final arrangements, old wounds surfaced, every belittling remark, every condescending smile, every holiday where I was seated with the non-essentials. Diana's wedding still stung. She'd sat me with the catering staff, claiming I'd be more comfortable with my peers. I owned a dozen hotels at the time. They never asked. They never knew. Only my sister Meline had stayed in contact. Even she didn't know the full scope of what I'd built. Fittingly, she called just as I hit send on the final approval. Meline, I answered as gently as she had called. Don't apologize. Diana told me she uninvited you. I wanted you to hear it from me. I signed the last document with a satisfied flourish. Actually, I need a favor. Can you make sure everyone arrives exactly at 7 p.m.? Why, Liv, what are you planning? Let's just say Diana isn't the only one with influence at the Starlight Grand. The next 2 weeks flew by in a blur of meticulous preparation. I oversaw every detail, the menu, the floral arrangements, even the lighting cues. If the Morrisons wanted luxury, I would deliver it, on my terms. The evening before the reunion, I stood beneath the Starlight Grand chandeliers, watching staff polish the marble floors until they gleamed like glass. Everything was pristine, elegant, and precise, just as I envisioned it. Marcus appeared beside me, tablet in hand. All set, he said, Signage reveal is locked in for 7:15 p.m. Still certain about going through with it? I nodded, completely. After all, it's not every day I get to welcome my family to my hotel. I could already imagine their expressions, the moment realization dawned. It would be unforgettable. At precisely 6:45 p.m., I stood in my private office atop the hotel, watching the arrivals through the security feed. They came in waves: luxury cars, designer gowns, glittering jewelry. Diana swept in, commanding the staff like she ran the place. My father arrived in his Bentley, flanked by associates. Every cousin, aunt, and uncle had shown up, each posturing in pursuit of status. "Everything's ready," Marcus reported. "The staff is briefed. Want security on standby?" I shook my head. No need. They won't cause a scene, not in public. I adjusted the collar of my custom Armani suit. They wouldn't recognize it, but they'd recognize the message. Let's give them a few minutes to settle in. Down in the grand ballroom, the Morrisons were in full form. Diana stood beside the champagne fountain, basking in compliments. My father was deep in discussion about mergers and profits. The atmosphere buzzed with self-congratulation. At 7:10 p.m., right on cue, the hotel manager approached Diana with a calm smile. "Miss Morrison, I'm afraid there's been a small issue with your reservation." Diana blinked, her posture stiffening. "What kind of issue?" "I handled this personally through your corporate team." "Yes, ma'am. However, the owner has requested some changes to tonight's arrangements." She scoffed. "I highly doubt Elsie Carter involves herself in minor event logistics. Now, if you'll excuse." "Actually," I said, stepping through the ballroom doors, "Elsie Carter involves herself quite a lot." Silence fell like a dropped curtain, heads turned. Diana froze, mid-sentence. My father looked stunned. I walked confidently into the center of the room, the uninvited embarrassment, now owner of the building. "Olivia?" my father said, incredulous. "What are you doing here?" "Diana said I couldn't afford to attend," I replied smoothly. "She was worried I'd be a liability." Diana stormed forward, voice tight. "This is a private event. Security will escort you out." "No," I interrupted, "they won't." On cue, Marcus tapped his tablet. The large screen above the stage lit up, first with the LC Hotels logo, then with my full name in bold, elegant script. Olivia Morrison Carter, founder CEO, LC Hotels International. Gasps echoed around the ballroom. A glass slipped from Diana's fingers, shattering on the marble. "That can't be real," she whispered. "Would you like to see my business cards?" I asked, pulling the leather portfolio under my arm. "Or perhaps the deed to the hotel?" My father stepped forward slowly, disbelief and something like pride in his eyes. "You own this hotel?" "And 16 others," I said. 17, actually. This one is special. I started here as a housekeeper." The disbelief deepened, but I didn't stop. "While you all laughed at my foolish career, I worked my way up, every position, every shift. The little hotel in Brooklyn Diana loves to joke about? It's where I designed the innovations that transformed the hospitality industry." Marcus began distributing folders. Inside, company documents, hotel valuations, booking details. "For the record," I added, "you were charged 30% above our standard rate. Consider it reverse nepotism." Diana's hands trembled as she opened her folder, her jaw tightened at the numbers inside. "This can't be." "But it is," I said. Meline let out a laugh from the crowd, breaking the tension. A few others followed, hesitant, then grateful for the release. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father demanded. I looked him in the eye. "Would you have listened? 10 years ago, you told me no daughter of yours would work in a hotel." I smiled. "You were half right. I don't work in a hotel, I own them." At that moment, the ballroom screens came to life, rotating through panoramic shots of my global properties, from Paris to Dubai, Singapore to Vancouver, each one bearing the sleek LC Hotels emblem. For once, the room was truly silent, not out of disdain, but awe. And I stood at the center, no longer overlooked, just seen. The sunset over the Maldives from our private villas, the snow-dusted Alps embracing our Swiss chateau, the glittering Dubai skyline, visible from every suite in our tower. I gestured toward the ballroom's massive screen, where these views shimmered in sequence behind my logo. "As for tonight's reunion," I said, "your reservation stands. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a special tour of the property. I thought it was time you saw what a career in customer service really looks like." Diana stepped forward, her flawless exterior beginning to crack. Olivia, we never meant. Yes, you did, I said, softly but clearly. You meant every cutting remark, every exclusion, every joke whispered just loud enough to sting, and that's fine. While you were busy curating your image, I was building a legacy. I turned to the crowd, letting my voice carry with calm authority. Welcome to the Starlight Grand. My team will escort you to your upgraded suites, though I should mention Diana's room was reassigned last minute due to a VIP booking. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Diana's expression shifted from stunned to humiliated as the implication sank in. She'd be staying in the very type of room she once mocked me for cleaning. As the family dispersed, escorted by my impeccable staff, my father lingered behind. I was wrong, he said quietly, about everything. For a long moment, I studied him. For the first time, I saw not anger or pride in his face, but uncertainty. Yes, you were, I said. But do you want to know the best part about owning 17 hotels, Dad? He tilted his head, the ghost of a smile playing on his lips. I have 17 different presidential suites where you can stay, while you figure out how to make things right. A dry chuckle escaped him. Where'd you learn to negotiate like that? Probably the same place I learned hospitality, I said, by starting at the bottom, something no one in this family ever respected. Later that night, after the tours concluded and the family had settled into their rooms, Diana's notably less spacious than the others, I stood alone in my penthouse, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. Marcus entered, tablet in hand. Final numbers are in. Also, your family seems a little shell-shocked. I smiled. Amazing what a little perspective can do. Did you see Diana's face when she realized her room doesn't have a view? He grinned. Brutal. Are you going to tell them about the expansion? Paris, Tokyo. I glanced at the signed contracts on my desk, then back at the lights stretching across the city. Not yet, I said. Let's save something for next year's reunion. Every good hotelier knows, the secret to growth is repeat business. The path from housekeeper to CEO hadn't been easy, but standing here, wrapped in soft light and quiet victory, I understood something deeper. Success wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't cold at all. It's served with a complimentary upgrade, and an unforgettable view. My phone buzzed. A message from Diana. Can we talk tomorrow, please? I replied with a smile. Of course, your breakfast reservation's at 9 o'clock. I own that restaurant, too. Because the greatest luxury isn't found in the thread count of sheets or the square footage of a suite. It's in the moment you're finally seen, truly seen, for who you are. And as I looked out over the empire I'd built, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was just the start of a new chapter. Because in the world of great hotels, one rule holds true. The key to success isn't just offering a room, it's creating an experience no one ever forgets.